Nanoplastics in the Biosphere, From Molecular Impact to Planetary Crisis Report. Authors, Alatra International Public Movement, in collaboration with Bolivian Catholic University, San Pablo, and the Creative Society International Project. Environmental and climate consequences of micro and nanoplastic pollution. How MNPs disrupt ecosystems at the molecular level. Plastic waste is found everywhere, from oceans and rivers to soil, air, and even glaciers. Long-term observations confirm that, unlike organic plant and animal matter, plastic does not undergo active natural decomposition. It persists in the environment without participating in natural biodegradation cycles. Engineered to resist breakdown, plastic has become a permanent fixture in the global ecosystem. What was once hailed as a technological triumph has now become a source of significant ecological disruption. More than 13,000 chemical substances are used in the production of plastics. Of these, over 3,200, including monomers, additives, and processing aids, are potentially hazardous due to their toxic properties. Impact of MNPs on soil properties and ecosystems degradation. Studies show that microplastic pollution in terrestrial ecosystems, particularly agricultural soils, may exceed levels in oceanic environments by 4 to 23 times, indicating significant plastic accumulation in soils. Plastics enter soil through various pathways, including wastewater treatment facilities, mulching practices, atmospheric deposition, and everyday consumer products. The widespread use of single-use plastic items is closely tied to serious contamination of soils with microplastics, MP, and nanoplastics, NP. Both natural and human-driven factors enable these tiny plastic particles to infiltrate soil layers, disrupting critical environmental processes. Observations confirm the harmful effects of microplastics on ecosystems, impacting the structure and function of microorganisms, plants, and soils. Research conducted by the Chinese Academy of Sciences found that the presence of plastic film particles of various sizes in soils significantly increases the rate of water evaporation. The effect is especially pronounced with the addition of 2 mm particles. Larger plastic fragments, 5 to 10 millimeters, cause soil cracking, disrupting its structural integrity. These findings suggest that plastic pollution interferes with the water cycle in soils, which may exacerbate soil water shortages and affect the vertical transport of pollutants. Studies also confirm the adverse effects of plastics on soil biota, a diverse community that includes microorganisms such as bacteria and fungi, and fauna, both microscopic and macroscopic animals. These organisms interact with each other, with plant roots, and with the surrounding environment to form soil food chains, which are essential for nutrient cycling and plant health. Various types of terrestrial biota serve as bioindicators of microplastic pollution. All samples analyzed contain microplastic particles and potentially toxic elements: antimony, arsenic, iron, aluminum, selenium, zinc, in varying concentrations, indicating the possible toxicity of microplastics. Research has shown that polystyrene beads can be ingested by the soil-dwelling nematode Cyanorhabditis elegans. This also suggests that polystyrene particles may accumulate within the soil food chain. Soil biota is more than just the biological engine of the Earth. It is a multifunctional system upon which all terrestrial ecosystems depend. Its role in sustaining life on the planet is comparable to that of the oceans and atmosphere, as confirmed by research in soil science, ecology, and climate studies. Any disruption caused by toxicity can therefore impact numerous critical processes within the soil and its food chain, leading to ecological imbalance. Findings show that microplastics can quickly absorb to soil surfaces due to their small size, high specific surface area, strong hydrophobicity, and resistance to biodegradation. These properties facilitate easy uptake and accumulation in organisms, posing a potential threat to human health. This process is not limited to the soil layer. It extends to plants, where microplastics continue to exert harmful effects. MNPs in food products. Anthropogenic pollutants can significantly impact ecosystems, especially when they enter plant systems. Microplastics have been confirmed to be absorbed and translocated into various parts of plants. Research shows that microplastics accumulate in plant systems through multiple pathways, exerting harmful effects on vegetation, agricultural crops, and food products. Due to their extremely tiny size, nanoplastics can directly penetrate plant tissue. Plants absorb nanoplastics from nutrient media, after which they are transported to above-ground parts through the xylem, the vascular system responsible for transporting water and nutrients from roots to stems and leaves. Microplastics that settle on leaves can enter through stomata and may then move downward to the roots via vascular bundles. Both micro and nanoplastics exhibit toxic effects on the physiological processes and enzymatic activity of agricultural plants. The plant water transport system can rapidly carry nanoplastics to stems, leaves, and possibly fruits. Research on tobacco plants, Nicotiana tobacum, shows that while 100 nanometer nanoplastics do not enter plant cells, smaller particles, 20 to 40 nanometers in size, are successfully absorbed. Additionally, some plastic particles carry surface charges, which can enhance their absorption to plant roots through electrostatic attraction. This interaction may affect nutrient immobilization or interfere with photosynthesis. Negatively charged microplastics are more likely to enter the root cortex. In agro-ecosystems heavily contaminated with these particles, studies report stunted plant growth, as well as short-term and transient effects on seed germination and root development. Studies confirm the presence of microplastics in commercially available honey, produced both industrially and locally. Further analysis revealed the widespread presence of microplastics in the inflorescences of various plant species. In recent years, the state of global bee populations has seen a sharp decline. Research suggests that one of the underestimated contributors may be environmental contamination from microplastics and nanoplastics. Studies indicate that bees collect microplastics from the air, water, plants, and soil, then carrying them back to their hives. Bees gather nectar and pollen from flowers, and they collect water from natural sources, all of which already contain microplastic particles. The fine hairs covering bees' bodies act as natural traps for these particles. Plastic particles also accumulate on their legs, particularly in the joints and between segments, as they come into contact with plant surfaces, soil, water, and even the hive itself. Quote, "The honeybee is a very good biological indicator of environmental contamination because it is ubiquitous, covered by hairs that capture contaminants and particles present in the air, sensitive to pollutants, and has great mobility and wide flying range, among others." Unquote. Micro and nanoplastics also enter the bee's body through the cuticle, the outer layer of its exoskeleton. Once inside, plastic particles reach the brain within just 3 days, causing impairments in memory, spatial orientation, and cognitive functions that are critical for foraging and navigation. The impact of microplastics on the brain also reduces the bee's ability to restore memory. This is particularly concerning as bees navigate using a familiar environmental landmarks. Nanoplastics in the bee brain further impair their ability to remember nectar sources, reduce responsiveness to floral scents, and disrupt their ability to find their way back to the hive. Such cognitive dysfunctions directly decrease pollination efficiency and may destabilize the entire colony. Once inside the bee's body, nanoplastics also cause intestinal damage, weaken the immune system, and increase susceptibility to viral infections, factors that can lead to bee mortality even in the absence of acute plastic toxicity. In addition, plastic fragments accumulate not only in bees themselves, but also in honey, wax, and larvae, creating a closed cycle of plastic contamination within the hive. This poses potentially serious implications not only for bee populations, but also for global food security. Bees are key pollinators, and their decline directly affects agricultural yields. Brain damage, reduced body mass, and suppressed immunity lead to a decrease in pollination activity, which researchers warn could exacerbate the crisis in global food production. Bees function as active bioindicators of environmental pollution, and microplastics have already been detected in significant quantities in honey, regardless of the country of origin. Microplastic exposure reduces overall chlorophyll content by 5.63 to 17.42%, leading to global losses in rice, wheat, and corn production. These losses account for 4.11 to 13.52% of the total annual global yield of these staple crops, an impact with serious implications for food security. Forests as global accumulators of microplastics. Analysis have revealed the presence of nanoplastics in roots, stems, leaves, and needles across all examined concentrations and time intervals. Nanoplastic concentrations in roots exceeded those in above-ground parts by at least a factor of 10. Plastic pollution negatively affects the functioning of both evergreen conifers and deciduous tree species by inducing oxidative stress and reducing photosynthetic efficiency, potentially leading to growth inhibition or even plant death. Studies indicate that disruptions in photosynthetic stages cause the accumulation of excess light energy. When this energy is not converted into chemical energy, it leads to photooxidative stress and tissue damage. To mitigate this, plants activate photoprotective mechanisms in which carotenoids dissipate the excess energy as heat. By impairing photosynthesis, inducing oxidative stress, and lowering plant physiological activity, plastic pollution increases ecosystem vulnerability to climate change. These findings underscore the broad-scale impact of plastic contamination on plant communities and, by extension, raise concerns about its consequences for terrestrial animals that depend on these ecosystems. How nanoplastics destroy fauna. Numerous studies indicate that the accumulation of micro and nanoplastics in the environment, including in plants, affects livestock production by disrupting food chains and impacting animal health. Observations from a dairy farm in Italy showed that all samples of ryegrass hay contained microplastics. A study conducted in India found polyethylene terephthalate microplastic contamination in 100% of dairy cattle feed samples, with concentrations ranging from 89 to 326 gram per kilogram. Analysis confirmed the presence of microplastics in the follicular fluid of cattle, in milk, in sheep feces, in beef, and in blood, pointing to significant impacts on ruminants. According to available data, 50 to 60% of foreign objects retrieved from slaughter livestock, including small ruminants such as goats and sheep, consisted of plastic materials. In addition, microplastics have been detected in the internal tissues of urban dogs and cats, in the intestines of domestic ducks, and in the lung tissue of pigs. Research findings confirm that microplastics harm animals not only directly, but also through the additives used in their production and pollutants they absorb from the surrounding environment, causing damage of varying severity. Observations indicate that microplastics trigger toxic effects in animals, including oxidative stress, intestinal damage, immunotoxicity, as well as reproductive and neurotoxicity. Moreover, microplastics act as carriers for contaminants such as heavy metals, antibiotics, persistent organic compounds, and pesticides, further amplifying potential risks to ecosystems, animal health, and human health. Observational data indicate that wild animals often mistake plastic waste for food, leading to its accumulation in their intestines. In Zimbabwe and Sri Lanka, Elephants that fed at open dumps died from ingesting indigestible plastic. In Japan's Nara Park, wild deer died from complications caused by swallowing plastic waste left by tourists. A study of over 30,000 camels near Dubai in the United Arab Emirates found that approximately 1% of the animals likely died due to plastic accumulated in their digestive systems. Scientists coined the term polybizor to describe a dense mass of indigestible materials, such as plastic, rope, trash, and salt deposits, forming a stone-like concretion in the stomach or intestines, especially in ruminants. The term combines poly, synthetic material, and bizor, a hardened mass. Observations confirm that polybizors cause gastrointestinal blockages, sepsis from bacterial growth, dehydration, and malnutrition, transfer of MNPs via food chains from plankton to humans. The accumulation of plastics in the ocean has a significant negative impact on marine ecosystems. Scientific observations over the past 4 decades have revealed microplastics in nearly all marine habitats worldwide. Studies confirm that plastic debris affects marine biodiversity across a wide spectrum of habitats. At least 690 marine species have been affected by plastic pollution globally, including cetaceans, pinnipeds, seabirds, turtles, fish, and crustaceans. Ingesting plastic debris can also expose the animal to an additional source of toxins. The chemical components can leach into the body following ingestion, with pollutants transferred from prey to predator within the food chains. The effects of entanglement or ingestion can be lethal or sublethal in nature and lead to a range of issues such as a compromised feeding capacity and digestion problems leading to malnutrition, disease, reduced reproductive output, reduced growth rates, and shorter lifespan. Due to their small sizes, microplastics are ingested by plankton, a key component of marine food chains. Plankton is consumed by many marine species, and those that do not feed on it directly eat organisms that have already ingested it. In this way, microplastics become integrated into food chains. In 1999, an analysis of surface water samples in the North Pacific subtropic gyre revealed that the mass of plastic exceeded the mass of zooplankton, the primary food source of the ecosystem, by 6 times, highlighting the dominance of plastic over living organisms in the ocean. Estimates based on observational data indicate that the concentration of microplastics increases with fish size. Data shows that the largest animal, the whale, ingests up to 43.6 kilograms of plastics daily, with 98.5% of this volume coming from prey, not directly from the water, since microplastics are already present in the food it consumes. Plastics kill marine organisms. Every year, around 1 million seabirds and 100,000 marine mammals die due to pollution. Observations confirm a link between ingested debris and seabird mortality. A study of 1,733 seabirds of 51 species found that 557, or 32.1%, had ingested marine debris, ranging from 1 to 40 items, with a maximum weight of 3,440 milligrams and a volume of 3,621 cubic millimeters. Some data also shows that certain plastics release dimethyl sulfide, a chemical compound that mimics the olfactory signal used by seabirds to identify food. New research has also established that plastics ingestion causes kidney, liver, and stomach damage in chicks, as well as brain lesions similar to Alzheimer's disease. This highlights the destructive impact of plastic pollution on marine fauna. Plastic particles were found in every individual of all 7 species of turtles across 3 oceanic basins. Studies of 171,774 individuals from 555 species of marine fish show that 386 species, including 210 commercially important species, consume plastic debris. The incidence rate of plastic ingested by fish was 26%, doubling over the last decade. Analysis revealed a positive correlation between the abundance of plastic in surface waters and its consumption by marine organisms. Laboratory studies show that compounds from plastic, when absorbed into fish tissues, reduce activity, impair liver function, damage the brain, and also delay growth and worsen reproductive fitness. Corals under threat, a micro-threat of global scale. Plastic pollution poses a growing threat to coral reefs by entering their food chains, exacerbating the spread of diseases, and contributing to the degradation of reef communities. Analysis has identified anthropogenic debris on 77 out of 84 surveyed reefs, including isolated atolls in the Central Pacific Ocean. Negative health impacts, such as bleaching and tissue necrosis, have been recorded in 5 out of 6 studied species. Larger plastic fragments facilitate the transmission of diseases and physical damage, increasing coral vulnerability to pathogens. These effects also impact the skeletal microbiome, which plays a crucial role in maintaining the health of coral colonies. Research further reveals that biofilms on microplastics, known as plastospheres, can induce microbiome dysbiosis in corals. When in contact with plastics, the risk of coral disease increases from 4% to 89%. The death of coral reefs significantly impacts biodiversity loss, as reefs provide habitat for a quarter of marine species. Impact of MNPs on the oxygen balance in ecosystems. Observations show that plastics in the environment primarily degrade due to solar radiation. This process alters their chemical composition and structure. Research confirms that reactions triggered by sunlight enhance the leaching of dissolved organic compounds, which impacts the biogeochemistry of seawater and stimulates the growth of heterotrophic bacteria. Long-term studies show that the chemical compounds released by plastics into seawater during their degradation originate either from the material itself or from additives used to provide color or stability to polymer. Some of the compounds are organic acids, which explains their role in reducing pH. Therefore, plastics contribute to the intensification of ocean acidification, which, in turn, can significantly disrupt the functioning of the Earth's natural systems. Thanks to this study, we have been able to prove that in highly plastic polluted ocean surface areas, plastic degradation will lead to a drop of up to 0.5 pH units, which is comparable to the pH drop estimated in the worst anthropogenic emission scenarios for the end of the 21st century, points out Cristina Romero Castillo, ICM, CSIC researcher and first author of the study, which has been published this week in the journal Science of the Total Environment. Ocean acidification is a disruption of marine conditions, creating persistent and growing environmental pressure. The consequences for ecosystems unfold over decades, centuries, and longer. Observations confirm a reduction in biodiversity in coastal systems due to a decrease in pH. This lowers ecosystems' resilience and threatens essential functions, including habitat provision, nutrient cycling, and carbon storage.
Research indicates that with ocean acidification, mussels, Mytilus edulis, grow slower and have reduced survival rates.
This decreases their population, which in turn reduces their ability to filter water and maintain coastal ecosystem quality. Current ocean surface pH levels are unprecedented at least for the past 26,000 years. This process has a significant impact on coral reefs, deep-sea ecosystems, and high-latitude ecosystems, which rely on unique species. Those species play an irreplaceable role, and their extinction disrupts key ecosystem functions, as there are no equivalents capable of replacing them. Research confirms that microplastics have considerable negative effects on biological parameters like growth, chlorophyll content, photosynthesis activity, and reactive oxygen species of microalgae.
Data point and reveal that MP exposure leads to a global reduction in photosynthesis, of 7.05 to 12.12% in terrestrial plants,
marine algae, and freshwater algae. Photosynthesis is known to be the primary process on Earth that produces molecular oxygen, which is released into the atmosphere. Microplastics in marine sediments alter microbial communities and disrupt nitrogen cycling, potentially magnifying human-caused problems like
toxic algal blooms.
Changes in plankton communities at the ocean surface could exacerbate deoxygenation driven by climate change, starving marine organisms of oxygen. Data shows that from 1960 to 2010, the ocean lost 2% of its dissolved oxygen due to rising water temperatures and the accumulation of pollutants, including industrial, household, and agricultural runoff. The decrease in oxygen leads to the formation of dead zones, areas of the ocean where marine flora and fauna have almost completely disappeared. Observations indicate that in the 1960s, there were 45 dead zones in the world's oceans, whereas by 2011, their number had increased to around 700. According to the data published on the UNDP website, the number of dead zones has been doubling every decade since the 1960s. Based on this trend, it is highly likely that the number could reach 1,500 by 2025. Plastic pollution impacts many processes in the Earth's system. According to research, it may exacerbate critical environmental issues such as biodiversity loss and climate change. Impact of micro and nanoplastics on the climate. Ocean functions. The ocean plays a key role in maintaining the planet's climate balance, functioning as a natural air conditioner. Its unique ability to absorb and gradually release heat helps moderate temperature fluctuations on Earth. Just a 10-meter layer of ocean water can absorb more heat than the entire Earth's atmosphere. This reduces temperature swings both during the day and night, as well as between seasons, summer and winter. Ocean currents carry warm water from the tropics to colder regions, such as the northern latitudes. This helps moderate the climate in coastal areas. Cold currents, in turn, return cooled water back toward the equator. In this way, the ocean regulates the planet's climate. The ocean has a major impact on atmospheric processes and plays a key role in the formation of clouds and precipitation. Every day, a vast amount of water evaporates from its surface, later condensing into clouds and falling back to Earth as rain or snow. This process is vital for replenishing freshwater resources in rivers, lakes, and soil. Microscopic algae in the ocean, such as phytoplankton, produce more than 50% of the oxygen. Many ocean chemistry and biology models predict that as the ocean surface warms in response to increasing greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, phytoplankton productivity will decline, changing ocean temperature patterns. The State of the Global Ocean Report 2024 demonstrates a troubling picture: an unprecedented ocean heating trend. Studies show that between 1960 and 1986, ocean temperatures rose at a steady rate. However, in recent decades, this process has accelerated twofold. The year 2023 became the warmest year on record, surpassing the previous high set in 2016. An all-time record for sea surface temperatures, SST, was also observed. This trend continued, and the year 2024 broke the records of 2023, making it the hottest year in recorded history. During this period, sea surface temperatures remained at record monthly values for 15 consecutive months, highlighting the persistence of the warming trend. For the first time on record, the global average surface temperature was 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial level. According to experts, this is a critical threshold. Beyond it, humanity will face large-scale climate catastrophes. Such a temperature increase was expected by the mid-21st century, yet this threshold has already been crossed. According to UN estimates, if current trends proceed, global temperatures could rise by nearly 3 degrees Celsius this century. The middle depths of a part of the Pacific
Ocean have warmed
15 times faster in the past 60 years than they did during the previous 10,000 years. This indicates that the processes of global warming affect not only upper ocean layers, but also deeper regions where sunlight does not reach. Heating water at such depths requires an enormous amount of energy, underscoring the scale of the problem. According to scientists, for the ocean to warm at its current rate, it would take an energy release equivalent to the explosions of 7 atomic bombs every second for an entire year. Staggering figures that raise a question. Where is this energy coming from? Rising ocean temperatures inevitably lead to sea level rise, threatening to engulf entire coastlines. Over the past 2 centuries, the global mean sea level has risen by 21 centimeters, or 8.3 inches. And in the last 30 years alone, by 10.1 centimeters, or 3.98 inches. The current rate of increase is 2.5 times higher than before, and this trend is expected to continue. If the situation doesn't change, millions of people will become climate refugees, forced to leave their homes and seek shelter far from the coasts.
The rise we saw in 2024
was higher than we expected, said Josh Willis, a sea-level researcher at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. Every year is a little bit different, but what's clear is that the ocean continues to rise, and the rate of rise is getting faster and faster. Ocean warming also contributes to more frequent and intense extreme weather events, such as floods, typhoons, and abnormal precipitation. These changes threaten the planet's ecosystems and the lives of billions of people, and with each passing year, their impact becomes more evident. Why is the ocean warming? Hypothesis. The main widely recognized factors
contributing to ocean warming are greenhouse gases,
such as CO2, which trap heat in the atmosphere and increase the temperature of the ocean's upper layers. However, there are other factors that may also have a significant impact on this process. One additional factor influencing ocean warming will be discussed in the chapter X Factor. Since the second half of the 20th century, there has been a sharp increase in the amount of plastics in the oceans, coinciding with a period of rapid industrial development and the mass production of plastic goods. Between 1960 and 2019, a change in ocean temperature has also been observed. The chart, figure 49, shows a parallel increase in the mean sea surface temperature, which has likewise been recorded since the mid-20th century. When comparing the two charts, figures 48 and 49, a correlation can be observed between the rise in ocean plastics concentrations and the warming of ocean waters. This suggests that plastic pollution in the oceans may be one of the significant, yet insufficiently studied factors contributing to the heating of ocean waters. To further explore this issue, it is important to understand whether plastics can affect the physical properties of ocean water, such as thermal conductivity and heat capacity. And can these changes contribute to rising ocean temperatures? To gain a better understanding of these processes, let's examine the fundamental properties of water and how it interacts with pollutants. Fundamental properties of water. A water molecule has a symmetrical V shape, with 2 hydrogen atoms positioned on one side relative to the larger oxygen atom. The structure differs from linear molecules, such as CO2, where all atoms are arranged in a straight line. The unique shape of water molecules makes it vital for numerous processes on Earth. The specific properties of water molecules allow water to remain in a liquid state at temperatures that would typically cause other triatomic molecules to become gases. This is due to hydrogen bonds that connect water molecules, forming a strong and orderly structure. Most hydrogen bonds are weak attractions, with bond strength approximately 1/10
that of a typical covalent bond.
Nonetheless, they are extremely important. Without them, all wooden structures would collapse, cement would crumble, oceans would evaporate, and all living matter would disintegrate into inanimate substances. That is why water has the ability to form clusters, which explains many of its anomalous properties. Water clusters can cover over 95% of hydrogen bond network, among which some clusters maximally encompass thousands of molecules extending beyond 3.0 nanometers. Heat capacity, thermal conductivity, and density of water, and their functional significance. 1. High heat capacity of water. Water has the highest specific heat capacity of any liquid or solid under normal conditions, second to only a few gases such as hydrogen. This means water can absorb, retain, and transfer large amounts of heat energy while undergoing only a relatively small change in its own temperature. Water's heat capacity is calculated as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius and is approximately 4.18 joules per gram per degree Celsius under standard conditions. This property is one of the key factors in climate regulation. Ocean water accumulates heat during the day and gradually releases it at night. In summer, the ocean absorbs excess heat, whereas in winter, it slowly releases it, acting as a giant thermostat and reducing temperature fluctuations across the planet. 2. Thermal conductivity of water. Water has a relatively low thermal conductivity compared to metals, but it is higher than that of many other liquids. Thermal conductivity reflects a substance's ability to transfer heat from one of its parts to another without the movement of the substance itself. Under standard conditions, 25 degrees Celsius, water's thermal conductivity is approximately 0.6 watts per meter Kelvin, which makes it an efficient conductor of heat in natural processes, such as heat distribution in oceans and other water bodies. Studies show that the thermal conductivity of water increases with rising temperature, up to a certain point. In addition, this value can vary in the presence of impurities or dissolved substances. These characteristics influence the way heat is distributed in water, which is critical to understanding the interactions between the ocean and the atmosphere. 3. Anomalous behavior of water density. Unlike that of most substances, the density of water behaves unusually as temperature changes. When water cools down to 4 degrees Celsius, its density increases. But when cooled further, from 4 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius, its density begins to decrease. When water freezes, its density drops by about 8 to 9%. This explains why ice floats instead of sinking. This phenomenon is critically important for life in water bodies because ice protects the underlying water and living organisms from freezing and prevents water from freezing solid all the way to the bottom. Influence of water properties on climate and ecosystems. Changes in water temperature can significantly affect the thermal balance of the world ocean and its ability to retain and transfer heat. This, in turn, will impact Earth's climate system. Thus, the physico-chemical properties of water, especially its heat capacity and thermal conductivity, play a vital role in maintaining environmental balance on the planet and regulating climate processes. Role of MNPs in altering seawater's physical properties. As products of the petrochemical industry, plastics do not biodegrade in nature. Instead, they break down into smaller particles, such as micro and nanoplastics. Those particles, especially nanoplastics, can significantly affect the physical and chemical properties of water, which in turn can influence ecosystems and climate processes. Nanoplastics are particles measured in nanometers, meaning they are smaller than a virus. For instance, nylon or polyamide nanoplastics, which contain nitrogen and oxygen, can form hydrogen bonds with water. When nanoplastic particles enter water, they disrupt the ordered structure of hydrogen bonds between water molecules. This can alter the water's physico-chemical properties. In particular, the mobility of water molecules decreases, which reduces their ability to efficiently participate in heat exchange processes. Moreover, in aqueous solutions containing various substances, plastic nanoparticles may acquire an electric charge. This is due to chemical changes on their surface, such as oxidation and absorption of ions.
For example, sodium and chlorine in seawater
Charged plastic nanoparticles surrounded by ions attract water molecules and form a hydrate shell around them. Researchers from the Polytechnic School of Lausanne decided to find out the size of this hydrate shell of ions, that is, how many water molecules react to an ion. It turned out that one ion can influence about 1 million water molecules around it. This effect is enhanced if a particle has a large surface charge and a high concentration of absorbed ions. Therefore, a single nanoplastic particle can change the properties of millions of water molecules. The molecules bound in a hydrate shell are less mobile. As a result, the total heat capacity of the water is reduced. Disruption of hydrogen bond structures also leads to a decrease in thermal conductivity. Consequently, water may remain heated near nanoplastics, as it loses its ability to effectively transfer heat. Areas of micro and nanoplastics concentration in the ocean. Micro and nanoplastics can be dispersed throughout the ocean by currents, while denser particles or contaminated plastics can settle on the ocean floor. Accumulation of nanoplastics is also observed in the thermocline areas, transitional layers between warm surface waters and colder deep waters. Increased concentrations of nanoplastics in the oceans can cause changes in the global heat balance. This can influence the rise in ocean temperatures, potentially causing climate change. It's important to note that even a small amount of nanoplastic can have a significant impact on ecosystems. A rise in ocean surface temperature accelerates fragmentation of plastic waste into micro and nanoplastics. Consequently, the number of these particles increases, and they enter the atmosphere along with water vapor. The presence of micro and nanoplastics in the atmosphere contributes to further warming, which in turn intensifies the warming of the ocean. Thus, a feedback loop is formed, where the processes mutually reinforce each other. Link between MNP, electrostatic charge, and atmospheric phenomena. Micro and nanoplastics enter the atmosphere through various pathways. Water vapor evaporating from the surface of the oceans and other water bodies carries microparticles into the air. On land, the primary sources of atmospheric plastics include factories, waste incineration plants, and landfills. Additionally, microplastics are lifted into the air when agricultural fertilizers and plastic mulch dry out and are dispersed by winds. Microplastic particles are also released through the friction of automobile tires. These and many other sources contribute significantly to atmospheric pollution. These processes promote accumulation and spread of microplastics in the atmosphere, creating serious environmental and climate-related threats. Once in the atmosphere, micro and nanoplastic particles can serve as a condensation nuclei for water vapor. The greater number of such nuclei, the faster the condensation of water vapor into droplets occurs. Airborne microplastics have been found in cloudwater samples collected from mountaintops in Japan. Quote, in a polluted environment with many more aerosol particles, like microplastics, you are distributing the available water among many more aerosol particles, forming smaller droplets around each of those particles. When you have more droplets, you get less rain.
But because droplets only rain once they get large enough, you collect more total water in the cloud before the droplets are large enough to fall.
And, as a result, you get heavier rainfall when it comes, said Miriam Friedman, professor of chemistry of Penn State's Department of Meteorology and Atmospheric Science. This explains why anomalous precipitation has been observed in various regions in recent years. Electric charges in clouds. Earth's atmosphere is a complex electrical system in which water molecules play a vital role. Since 1752, when Benjamin Franklin first demonstrated that the atmosphere is electrified and thunderstorms have an electrical nature, it has become clear that water, in the form of vapor, liquid, and ice, plays a key role in these processes. While pure water is electrically neutral, during phase changes such as melting and freezing, as well as during collisions between molecules, it can transfer ions to other particles. This leads to a buildup of electric charges and contributes to atmospheric electrical phenomena. In the atmosphere, collisions between ice crystals, supercooled water droplets, and other particles especially in the presence of natural electric fields, cause separation of charges. This process plays a key role in the development of atmospheric electricity, including formation of thunderclouds. It is also essential to formation of clouds and precipitation. Electrically charged droplets are drawn towards each other, accelerating their coalescence into larger drops. This ultimately leads to the formation of clouds capable of producing precipitation such as rain, snow, or hail. Quote, "Charges are really important, and in cloud formation, charges are practically everything. And what we found is that charges are critical," unquote, said Gerald H. Pollack, PhD, professor of bioengineering at the University of Washington, editor-in-chief, and founder of the interdisciplinary research journal, Water. In 1843, Michael Faraday discovered that electricity can be generated when water droplets rub against metal surfaces, effectively charging the water. This finding sparked further research into how water becomes electrically charged through friction, phase transitions, and contact electrification, and even resulted in efforts to harness this effect for new energy sources. It is known that humid air can neutralize surface charges by forming a thin water film that allows ions to move and dissipate built-up charge. However, in some cases, surfaces that absorb water can actually accumulate charge from a moist atmosphere, which also influences the surrounding electrical environment. Research has also shown that heavy metals can easily bind to microplastics, and this combination may pose serious risks to global ecosystems. Moreover, microplastics and the mixed substances on their surface can not only stick to other pollutants, but also interact with each other, altering their chemical properties. When micro and nanoplastic particles enter the atmosphere, they can disrupt the delicate balance of atmospheric processes. Plastic particles may carry a charge, enhancing the attraction of polar water molecules and promoting the formation of droplets. Unlike typical condensation nuclei such as pollen, sea salt, or soot, plastic particles can gather droplets more efficiently than neutral particles.
This means that water droplets begin to form more quickly around charged particles, which affects cloud structure and may lead to the formation of larger droplets and even abnormally large ice crystals. For instance, a recent study by a group of researchers found plastic pellets with water-attracting surfaces in clouds at mountain peaks in Japan.
Impact on cloud formation and precipitation. Microplastics can influence the nature of precipitation, weather forecasting, climate modeling, and even flight safety by affecting how atmospheric ice crystals form clouds. A study has shown that water droplets containing microplastics freeze at the temperatures of 4 to 10 degrees Celsius higher than droplets without them, meaning they freeze at lower altitudes. Typically, a water droplet without any impurities freezes around negative 38 degrees Celsius. However, in the case of microplastics, 50% of the droplets froze at negative 18 to negative 24 degrees Celsius, depending on the type of plastic. Water droplets containing microplastics freeze faster, forming larger ice particles. Those particles are carried upwards by air currents, repeatedly coated with layers of ice, and then fall to the ground. This kind of phenomenon can lead to an increase in the size of hailstones, intensifying their destructive impact and accelerating the formation of ice clouds. As a result, the frequency and intensity of precipitation, including rain and snow, may change. This can trigger cascading effects that impact the climate, the hydrological cycle, and ecosystems. When nanoplastic particles are present in the atmosphere, clouds begin to form at lower altitudes, typically below 6,500 feet. This causes clouds to become less mobile, which disrupts normal precipitation patterns. Consequently, some areas may experience drought, while others receive excessive rainfall. Role of MNPs in disrupting Earth's climate balance. Denser clouds begin to trap heat in lower layers of the atmosphere, acting like a blanket by absorbing and re-radiating thermal energy back towards Earth's surface. This reduces the amount of heat escaping into space and contributes to atmospheric warming. Rising temperatures lead to increased evaporation from the oceans, while more moisture in the air further amplifies the warming, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. Notably, for every 1 degree Celsius or 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit increase in temperature, the amount of moisture in the atmosphere rises approximately 7%, and the frequency of lightning strikes increases by about 12%. As noted by Kevin Trenberth, a distinguished climatologist at the U.S. National Center for Atmospheric Research and lead author of IPCC reports, quote, "Those two ingredients, the increased temperature and the increased water vapor, lead to increased instability of the atmosphere. And what that leads to is more convection, more storms, some of which, the more severe ones, become thunderstorms. And there's a greater risk of strong thunderstorms as a result. And if the thunderstorms get together and cooperate, as they do in tropical storms, you can end up with stronger hurricanes as well. And so, all of those things are adding together. And there's an increased risk of kinds of storms. The severe thunderstorms, the supercell storms, especially that produce the hail, and also can in some places, in the right conditions, produce tornadoes." Unquote. Thus, extreme ocean heating along with excessive electricity and heat in the atmosphere is worsening the climate situation, causing more destructive weather events such as severe thunderstorms, hurricanes, lightning, and sprites. In the atmosphere, plastics do not just pollute the environment, but also disrupt climate processes by influencing cloud formation and precipitation. They enhance electrostatic charge in the atmosphere, accelerate condensation of water vapor, and affect cloud density, factors that can increase the intensity of storms, thunderstorms, and other extreme weather events. We are on the brink of understanding the full scale of this impact on the climate, underscoring the urgent need for comprehensive action to reduce plastic particle pollution in both the oceans and the atmosphere. Interaction between the ocean and Earth's magnetic field. The oceans cover about 70% of Earth's surface and are far more than vast reservoirs of water. They play a crucial role in the planet's complex electrical systems. They interact with Earth's magnetic field and actively participate in its electromagnetic processes. Earth's magnetic field acts as a natural shield, protecting the planet's surface from solar wind and cosmic radiation. Without it, our atmosphere would be stripped away. This geomagnetic field is generated deep within the planet, where the liquid outer core, composed of metals, moves around the solid inner core, creating a natural generator through a process known as geodynamo. Earth's magnetic field interacts with electrical phenomena in both the oceans and the atmosphere. Seawater, rich in salts and dissolved ions, is highly conductive and capable of carrying electric currents. Those currents, in turn, interact with the planet's magnetic field, generating complex electromagnetic processes that influence the dynamics of Earth's geomagnetic system. As previously discussed, ocean pollution, particularly from micro and nanoplastics, can alter the chemical and electrical properties of seawater. The higher the concentration of pollutants, the more natural electromagnetic processes are disrupted. When polluted water evaporates, it can carry with it metals, microplastics, and other substances, potentially influencing atmospheric processes. During evaporation, microscopic droplets and aerosols can transport micro and nanoplastics, heavy metals, and other contaminants into the atmosphere, where they may affect local electromagnetic conditions.
This process is somewhat analogous to placing a metallic object near a magnet.
It distorts the magnetic field and weakens its strength in specific areas. The impact of ocean pollution on Earth's magnetic field requires further research, especially in the context of global climate change. A deeper understanding of these processes can help scientists assess their potential effects on the planet's climate system and ecosystems.